Welcome to Crocs in the Kitchen.
I'm Jessica.
And I am Brian.
So we were hoping to come to you guys today with amazing news that we are expecting our baby girl. Unfortunately, we don't have good news, but I also want you to know we don't have bad news necessarily yet. We have not given up hope. We're going to explain kind of what's going on, but we're in a position right now where it would be the exception. It would be a rare thing if it all works out. But there's still a chance. And you know what? We've been through a lot. And we've been told a lot of times that things are a certain way, or there's no possibility of this, or there's no whatever. Doesn't look good. There's unequivocal evidence that there's cancer in my liver and I'm at stage 4. Like, we've been told a lot of things that just didn't end up, it didn't end up playing out that way for us. So, you know, we've experienced what I can only explain as miracles. Nobody can explain them to us, why things happen certain ways.
Yeah.
And so I'm not giving up yet.
No.
I also want you to know, we're going to tell you what's going on, but we're also not living in some dream world where we're like, yes, it's going to happen. Everything is, we're not living in some fantasy land.
We aren't delusional.
We have had to, over the last few days, go in these waves of realizations of like, I'll have a moment where I'm like thinking, and then I think about getting rid of all the rest of the baby stuff because I might not use it again. And those like tangible thoughts are like, oh geez, that's awful. But then I'll have moments where I'm like, you know what? I believe that there's still a possibility she's pregnant. So as you know, we did the transfer on Thursday, April 24th. The first embryo they thawed was our only male embryo that had tested as being viable for transfer. And unfortunately, that embryo did not survive. After they thawed the embryo, the cells were dying.
Yes.
We successfully transferred our only remaining embryo, which was another female, and the transfer part was successful.
Yes.
And if you haven't watched that video, go back and watch our last video, because just seeing the magic of that moment is such a beautiful and amazing thing to see. We had like a little clip of the actual transfer. But then came the waiting. Mm-hmm. And, they tell you to not take the at-home pregnancy tests. They tell you that on day 8 after the transfer, they are going to have Tess do a blood test to test her HCG level. And the parameters of that blood test I'll go into in a little bit, but as far as at-home urine tests, they don't recommend doing them. Now, with Elsie, Tess did do some at-home tests. She couldn't help herself. She was excited. She really wanted to give us that good news.
Yeah.
She did a lot of the tests without, I didn't actually know she was doing them. I don't think she was going to tell us unless it was positive.
I'm pretty sure she was taking a test the day she got home.
She probably was. No, she wasn't. But on day 5 after Elsie's embryo transfer, she got a line on the test and was able to tell us, hey, I'm getting a positive pregnancy test.
Yeah.
And we were in such a crazy uncertain time in our lives then. It was such a blessing to know that information as early as possible.
Yeah.
And we had, we went into the rest of that week before the blood test just
stoked.
Yeah, we were just like, it's working. We're actually going to get our baby.
We actually got our our little girl. She's growing.
Yeah.
And, you know, of course, I was always like, until I have baby in hand, like I'm going to reserve like my emotions.
Yeah.
And I mean, it didn't matter. We got our girl.
Yeah.
You know?
But so I think we wanted to replicate that this time. I think in Tess and I's head, it was like, okay, like this can happen. We've seen it happen. Like we'll know earlier and it'll be great. So today is day 10 post-transfer, and unfortunately we did not get a positive on any of the pregnancy tests so far. So we did an at-home test late in the day on day 4, which we knew was a bad idea because you don't do pregnancy tests at the end of the day. You do them in the morning if possible to have the hormone be more concentrated.
Yeah.
But we were like, you know what? Let's do it. And of course, it was kind of like, let's do like the beta test. You know, that's the control sample. Like, yep, okay, it was negative. And then in the morning on day 5, which would have been when we saw a slight line with Elsie, it was also very clear that there was no line.
Yeah.
At that point, I decided, I was like, okay, nope, I can't see these these blank white areas where this line is supposed to be. I can't do this anymore. And so I kind of put a halt on the testing. But I think by like day 7, I was like, I was calling up Tess like, okay, let's take a test. I think we're going to get a positive now. And there was a point where we had a test where we saw a slight bit of something that might have been a line. And it was like, these are the reasons they tell you not to do these at-home tests. Especially,
it creates an emotional roller coaster that is kind of hard to get off of, because like for every negative that you get, you want to keep doing them, because then it's like you can get that positive and it erases all of the other negatives that you had before. It's like chasing that win. And it's just, it is not a good thing. And we do not recommend that anybody does that, despite the fact that Jessica and Tess decided to do
and I think it's especially important because especially if you're the one who, like, if I was carrying my own embryo, it would be really an emotional toll on me, which can, like, you know, definitely be a stress on your body as well.
Yeah.
And that's
absolutely.
I knew that with Tess, it wouldn't be as much we felt comfortable because she's a very reasonable, rational person. I am not reasonable or rational. I thought I could be. I thought I was going to be, but no, I am not.
No, you are not.
Like, I am emotionally, like, all over the place. So Tess can understand, yes, a lot of these tests are probably going to be negative. When you do an embryo transfer, like, there's fluctuations in, like, when that embryo, will actually, like, hatch out of the little cell wall that it's in. It has to, like, do all these things. And, like, that process, it has to, like, find its spot in the uterine lining and, like, implant. And, like, there's all these things that could happen. Like, it could happen very quickly, or it could happen a couple days later. And so with Elsie, obviously everything was happening very quickly. She was a very blurry, quick embryo on the little petri dish. So we're like, okay, this baby was a little bit, more chill and was just taking its time to find a perfect spot. So there's so many factors at play that no two cases are going to look like exactly identical. And so Tess can understand that, and rationally, she could have been doing tests all week and, like, been fine with it. But yeah, I'm a hot mess. So, but yeah, I think we did a test on day 7 and maybe day 8 in the morning before she went in for the blood test. And, like, all these were coming back, like, they were not positive. So prior to the blood test, I didn't call. I wrote a little message on the portal to the nurse practitioner we've been working with at the fertility clinic and said, hey, because Tess is not local, she's going to be going into, whatever lab in Columbus, and we're going to likely see the results before you guys see them, because that's usually how it works with her. Like, if she was able to just go into our fertility clinic locally, it would be different. But I was like, I want to set us up for knowing what to expect. And she broke it down and said, if the number is below 3, like, there really was just, no I mean, she didn't say no hope, but it was like
they don't consider it a positive.
Yeah. If it's between 3 and 30 for her HCG level, they are very, very cautiously optimistic that there could be a pregnancy. But they really want that number to be over 30 by the time they're at day 8. And if it's over 30, then it becomes more of a, it's not necessarily about the number. It's not like, 150 is better than 30 or whatever. It becomes more of a, hey, we're going to keep an eye on it. And then we want it to double every 48 to 72 hours.
Yeah.
So Tess got her, you want to kind of explain what happened there?
So she got the blood test done, and we waited all day. Emotions were very high. We were bouncing around up and down between, it's everything's going to be great. Everything's going to be fine. Like, we're going to get it back. And we were also dipping down into, it's not going to work. Whatever. And, the test results didn't come back that day. They actually came back the next day, and we found out in the morning, and they said that the number was less than 5. They didn't give us a specific number. They just said less than 5. And of course, we look at that and we're like, okay, it's like they told us between 3 and 30.
What if it's 4? What if it's 3.5? What if,
what if it's 4.9? Like, we don't know. We just know that they said less than 5. And so because of that, we were like, well, we know the odds are against us. We know that it's not looking good. But there is that small little chance that our little embryo had a delayed implantation. The numbers weren't going up super quick because of that. And there's still that small chance that in between that 3 and that 5, our little embryo, our little girl is sitting right there.
Yeah.
And so we were like, you know what? I'm not going to lose hope. I'm not going to say it's impossible at this point, because it's still possible. There is still a possibility. We understand it is a small possibility, but it is still a possibility nonetheless. And so I know my parents started praying. I know that a bunch of people started praying for us. And I mean, I remember just praying as much as I possibly could that day, yesterday. But what I also did was I started looking online, and I know they said not to Google things, right?
So you did something there, and you're not supposed to do too.
I did something a little bit different, though. I wasn't just Googling symptoms. I wasn't Googling what does this number mean? What does this mean? Or any of that. I started Googling for other people's stories, other people with IVF journeys, and what they had talked about as far as negative pregnancy tests and the sort. And I started finding story after story after story after story of people who were like, I was on day 14 and I was still getting negative pregnancy tests. I was at day 12, and my blood tests came back as less than 5. It was just one thing after another of these people telling the story about how the odds were against them too, but now they are pregnant, or they had their child, or a bunch of different kids that are now in existence, despite the fact that all of the numbers were stacked against them, apparently.
Yeah.
And that gave me a lot of hope. And it definitely, if it had been the opposite, if I'd found just sad story after sad story, I'd be in a completely different spot and just be like, you know what? Let's start planning for the future that we know.
Yeah.
Which we are still doing, but at the same time, we understand that path to getting our second daughter is not closed off yet.
Yeah.
It hasn't concluded.
Yeah.
And we are still extremely hopeful that it'll still happen.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that we know it's a slim chance.
Unfortunately, like I said, we don't have news for you guys really. We just have this sort of up and down thing that we're going through, but
here's where we are.
Yeah, we wanted to share it with you guys because we know there's a lot of people out there praying, and we didn't want you guys to think the worst because we haven't said anything or, you know, anything like that. But I think that's going to be it for this video.
Yeah, I will say just sort of in conclusion, because I don't feel like doing the whole spiel and all that.
Yeah.
But I know we said it before, but we already got our beautiful miracle in Elsie, and we are absolutely content if our life is to raise her in a loving household and just see her grow up. That is more than enough for me to be happy. Like, I don't need to necessarily mourn for a long time. I don't need to do anything like that. It just makes me want to love Elsie more.
It makes you appreciate how much of a miracle she really was. Like,
absolutely.
There's so many pieces of this process that could go wrong. And it really makes you appreciate how it's crazy to think that, like, I only had like 6 or 7 eggs from that egg retrieval of that first round. And we got 1 viable embryo, and the genetic testing went beautifully. The transfer went amazing. It's just thinking about how lucky we were that all of that clicked and worked and resulted in our beautiful girl. Every time you go through something like this and you're like, oh, wow, that could have gone wrong. That could have gone wrong. All the pieces that went right last time. Now you realize, like, how many pieces could go wrong, like with the thawing of the embryo and all of that. It just makes you, like, squeeze a little tighter on that beautiful girl. She is a miracle.
And it's also kind of hard to be sad when you look at her and she smiles at you. And especially because, you know, she's saying, like, dada and mama, and like she's figured out how to say the word bubbles.
Yes.
Now,
so she says bubble.
So
that's her word of the week right now.
Yeah, like
it's really hard to be sad when you're around that girl.
It is very hard. She is. We've said it before. We will say it forever. She is joy incarnate, and we are blessed to have her in our life. But I think that's all we got for this one.
Yes.
We will see you next time on Crocs in the Kitchen. Bye.